It is Sunday the 2nd of February. I was having a little conversation, or perhaps a monologue I should say, with Chris here, cleaning the sidewalk. Chris asked me to clear the sidewalk, to make it safe for people to come into the church. He said you don't want people to fall and hurt themselves. And I said, you're right, and in fact I actually would help you to do that. But the clear analogy here is that he and a whole lot of Unitarian Universalists have repeatedly refused to help me deal with Unitarian Universalist community's serious clergy abuse problem, which includes what the Canadian attorney of the Unitarian Universalist Association calls such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. Not all Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse consists of pedophilia and rape. Most of it is ministers sexually harassing congregants, making unwanted sexual advances to congregants, having so-called affairs with congregants, even using their congregations as harems, as it were, having multiple affairs, sexual encounters with congregants and so on. But there's a whole range of Unitarian Universalist clergy sexual misconduct. But it does include pedophilia, it does include rape, and also child porn. Yes, what's his name? Ronald Eugene Robinson, not so long ago, was found to have participated in a child porn, scene, as it were, sort of like online molestation of children, where people watch it and they can comment on it and so on, and so Ronald Eugene Robinson was caught doing this by the FBI, I believe, and he pleaded guilty to child porn charges. This is a Christian Unitarian Universalist minister, by the way, very prominent so-called Christian Unitarian Universalist minister, Reverend Eugene Robinson. So anyway, this analogy is perfect. I couldn't ask for a better analogy this morning. Here's Chris, Robin, he's basically trying to guilt trip me, as it were. Oh, why aren't you helping me clean the sidewalk, and well, guess what, Chris? You're not helping me clean up Unitarian Universalism clergy abuse problem. You're not helping me do anything to clean up the mess that is Unitarian Universalism's clergy abuse problem. And because of that, other people are being hurt. Other people are being hurt a lot worse than if they just fell down and bruised their butt on Sunday morning because there was some ice on the sidewalk. So let's go back to this picket sign here. So we did get a little interrupted. Our train of thought got interrupted. I was talking about the UUMA's worthless apology for clergy sexual misconduct. And maybe I'll continue on with that, because I do want to sort of go deeper into that. So I wrote a letter to the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association, an email which I sent on Thanksgiving Day, 2019, American Thanksgiving Day, so that's late November. Basically bringing it to their attention that there was some serious problems with the so-called letter of apology for clergy sexual misconduct that they sent out to their members on June 3rd of last year, but which I only became aware of in November. I didn't get a response. So finally, on Friday the 13th of December, another symbolic date. I do like to use symbolic dates where possible, so a less than lucky Friday the 13th for the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association, I sent the follow-up letter. And the follow-up letter contained a much more in-depth, point-by-point critique of their letter of apology. Like, I went through it line by line and showed what was wrong with it. And I made it very clear to them that they had to do something. Then a couple of days later, I believe on the 15th of, or maybe the 16th of December, I did get an email back from Jeanette, I forget her last name, the administrator, as it were, for the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association, acknowledging receipt of my emails and asking me to be patient for a response. So I said, oh, I can be patient, it's the holidays are coming up, let's take this up in the new year, happy holidays kind of thing, So giving them plenty of time to get back to me early in the new year about their very problematic clergy abuse apology, or so-called apology, and some other issues that I raised. I raised, other issues that they have to deal with that they haven't dealt with, including the Unitarian Universalist Association's abuse and misuse of Canada's blasphemy law in clergy abuse cover-up and denial legal bullying. That's an issue the UUMA has some responsibility to deal with, because one of their ministers is responsible for this, Reverend Dr. Peter Morales. But let's get back to the bigger situation. So that's it. I patiently waited until early in the new year, until let's say the 6th or 7th or 8th of January, and I hadn't heard anything. So I just wrote back saying, what's happening, and I got an email back from Jeanette with a PDF file attached, or maybe a Microsoft Documents file attached, which was a letter from the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association to me regarding my emails that had actually, according to the letter, been written on December 20th, but didn't get sent until January 13th of this year. So basically a good 3-4 weeks of delay in sending. I should add that even Jeanette's response, delayed response, was a result of her basically not properly sending an email. Like, she basically said that she had intended to contact me earlier than she did, but she didn't send the email. So good day, sir. So we got some people showing up here, and as you can see, they're just walking by. They're not overly concerned about the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association falsely accused me of violating Canada's blasphemy law and legal bullying intended to conceal pedophilia and rape from the public. They just, it's not their problem apparently. But anyway, getting back to UMA, so at least there was some communication. At least they officially acknowledged my communication with them. They even thanked me. They said, thank you for bringing this to our attention, and thank you for bringing it to the attention of the world on your blog. Not their exact words, but that was the gist of their statement. They literally thanked me for critiquing their apology and then making my critique available on the internet. So maybe we got something going here. Maybe we can have some dialogue. Maybe we can get some actual changes made. I made it clear in my original communications that they needed to issue a better apology, one that was clearly addressed to victims and not to Unitarian Universalist ministers, a very comprehensive apology, and that they should deliver it publicly during the upcoming General Assembly of the Unitarian Universalist Association in the summer. Do this very publicly in front of thousands of Unitarian Universalists during the annual general meeting that's held every year. And this year it's in Providence, Rhode Island. And I even said, you're not the only people responsible for a lousy apology. The UUA board issued a terrible apology in June of 2014. That needs to be redone. And the UUA's apology from the year 2000, proved to be basically worthless. The apology itself wasn't that bad. It was a pretty good apology in terms of what it said, but they never implemented, they never changed their behavior. They just kept on covering up clergy abuse and mishandling, clergy misconduct complaints. So it became worthless as a result of their failure to bend towards justice as they promised that they would do. So I'm just going to check the camera and make sure it's still running. And yes, it is. 9 minutes, 10 minutes. So essentially, there was some communication with the UUA Board of Trustees about the shadow of Unitarian Universalism's clergy abuse problem. They only apologized for clergy sexual misconduct, not non-sexual clergy misconduct. That was a problem too that I brought to their attention. I made it clear to them that, you know, some of the more serious forms of clergy misconduct that's of a non-sexual nature is actually more harmful than some of the less serious forms of clergy sexual misconduct. You know, there's a difference between a minister asking you out on a date and a minister abusively attacking you. So I think you can see how some of the less serious forms of clergy sexual misconduct are comparatively benign compared to some of the more serious forms of non-sexual misconduct, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, financial misconduct, so on. So, again, it's February 2nd of 2020, and we have a Groundhog Day themed protest going here. And on Groundhog Day, I make a point of exposing the shadow of the Unitarian Universalist religious community's clergy abuse problem and other Unitarian Universalist injustices and abuses. And as I've said before, and I'll say again, you know, every single February 2nd that rolls around, I see the shadow because they've done nothing or little to responsibly deal with the shadow. You know, even if they did something to deal with the shadow responsibly, you know, obviously it's still there. You know, the history is still there, but I see the shadow in the sense that it's active. Like they're still failing miserably to deal responsibly with clergy abuse and other serious issues. You know, they're still, you know, totally ignoring people who complain about clergy abuse, and including me. Yeah, I should get back to current events. Oh, so here's the thing. Yeah. On this point, in their letter to me, the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association said to me, you need to work with the Unitarian Universalist Association's Office of Ethics and Safety.